My golden sister cheated with my husband and tried to drain my saving, and my mom sided with them. So I did this, and it destroyed their life. What's up, people? Long-time lurker, first-time poster here. I've always thought of myself as a woman who's got everything together. But lately, I'm starting to question everything. My marriage, my family, and maybe even my own judgment. Feels like I'm living in some kind of twisted drama I never signed up for. Let me lay it out and see if you think I'm crazy. So here's the deal. I'm 28 female, been married to Mark, 27 male, for 2 years. We had what I thought was a solid thing going. I'm not the girl who needs some perfect romantic fairy tale. I've built a good life for myself, a solid career, a nice house, and a vision for the future, and Mark fit into that perfectly. He's smart, funny, and sharp enough to keep me on my toes. We worked well together like a team. I didn't think I'd ever have to second-guess him. He wasn't just my husband. He was my partner in every sense of the word. I still remember the way he stood by me when I missed out on a promotion I'd been gunning for. "You'll get the next one," he said, his hand resting on mine. "You're unstoppable." I believed him then. Now I don't know who he is anymore. Then there's Jane, 27 female, my younger sister. The girl is basically the poster child for charm. Growing up, she was the favorite. Everyone loved her, and she knew how to milk it. Teachers, boyfriends, even our parents. It was always Jane this, Jane that. Meanwhile, I was the girl grinding away, actually earning my way. But I'm not bitter. Okay. Maybe a little. However, growing up, Jane and I were inseparable. She wasn't just my sister. She was my best friend. We'd spend summers building forts, taking the blame for each other's trouble, and protecting each other from the world. Sure, Jane was always the golden girl, our parents' favorite, but it didn't matter back then. We had each other. That's why this betrayal cut so deep. When Mark and I got married, Jane got along with him right away, which didn't bother me. Family is family. She'd show up to hang out, crack jokes, be her usual entertaining self. I figured Mark just saw her as my fun-loving sister. Nothing more. He's way too smart to fall for her smooth talker crap, and Jane knows better than to mess with my life, or at least I thought she did. But then Jane started showing up more. Not just for family dinners or casual weekend beers, normal stuff. I'm talking midweek pop-ins when I wasn't home. I'd come back from work, and Mark would casually say, "Oh, Jane stopped by for lunch." At first, I brushed it off. Cool, I guess. But then it started happening a lot. One evening, I came home early and found them on the couch laughing over something on his phone. Mark noticed me and immediately locked his screen, his smile fading. My gut sank. I didn't say anything, no point without proof. But the way he avoided eye contact stayed with me. Later that night, I tried to play it cool. "So, what was so funny earlier with Jane?" I asked. Mark shrugged. "Oh, just a meme? Nothing serious." I let it go, but my radar was going off like crazy. Something didn't feel right. The next day, I decided to test the waters. Over dinner, I casually said, "Jane's been around a lot lately. Doesn't she have better things to do?" Mark rolled his eyes and laughed. "She's your sister. Don't be so dramatic. She just likes hanging out." That answer didn't sit right with me. People don't just like hanging out with married couples for no reason. But I kept my cool. There's no point in flying off the handle when you don't have the full picture. I'm not a woman who runs her mouth without backing it up. Looking back, I can see the cracks in Mark's demeanor that I ignored. He'd been restless lately, talking about wanting more out of life, feeling trapped. I thought I was doing enough, but maybe I wasn't. Maybe Jane stepped in where I fell short. Not that it excuses what they did. It just makes me wonder if he was searching for something, anything, to fill whatever void he thought he had. That night, I called Erica, my best friend since college. If anyone could help me sort through this mess, it was her. "You're overthinking it," Erica said at first, her voice calm and measured. "Jane's annoying, sure, but she's your sister. Mark's smart. He wouldn't cross a line like that." "I don't know, Erica," I replied. "There's something about the way they've been acting. It's too familiar." Erica paused, then sighed. "Okay. Let's say you're not imagining things. What are you going to do about it?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But if I find out they're crossing the line, they're both out of my life." "Good," Erica said firmly. "You don't deserve that kind of betrayal. Keep your eyes open. And whatever you do, don't let them make you feel crazy. Trust your gut." Then came the barbecue party, a harmless family get-together, Or so I thought. We were all in the backyard grilling burgers when one of my cousins made a joke. Man, Mark and Jane are like two peas in a pod. Everyone laughed, but my jaw tightened. It wasn't just me seeing it anymore. Other people noticed. That's when I realized this wasn't just in my head. Since then, I've been watching. Not obsessively. I'm not some insecure girl who needs to check her husband's every move, but I'm not blind either. The way they exchange these subtle glances, the little inside jokes I'm not in on, the way Mark always defends her whenever I bring it up, it's all adding up. For now, I've been letting them think I'm clueless, playing the long game. But deep down, I know this won't end well. And if they think I'm going to just sit back and watch this happen, they've got another thing coming. By this point, I knew I needed help. I didn't just want to catch them. I wanted to make sure I had every angle covered. That's when I called up a buddy of mine, Eric, who's a beast in family law. The guy's a shark in a suit, and I knew he'd have my back. He's not just any lawyer. He's a family friend who's seen it all, and he's damn good at his job. Something's off, I told him, explaining what I'd been suspecting. Although it hurts to tell others that you feel you're being betrayed by your sister and husband, Srinya, I needed help and didn't want to play dirty. I don't have much yet, but my gut says they're hiding something. Eric didn't ask for details. He's not the type to waste time on speculation. You get me the proof, he said, his voice steady. Then we'll figure out how to handle it. Let me make one thing clear. I'm not the kind of woman who tolerates disrespect. You can call it old school, but loyalty is the line you don't cross, ever. So when things with Mark and Jane started feeling off, I didn't sit back and hope for the best. I don't wait for the storm to pass. I walk straight into it. And this storm had been brewing for too damn long. The opportunity to act came when I had to leave town for work, or at least that's what I let Mark think. I packed my bag and told him I'd be gone for 3 days. But instead of heading to the airport, I checked into a hotel across town. It wasn't paranoia. It was strategy. If there was something going on, I needed to see it with my own eyes. Words and assumptions mean nothing. Proof is everything. The first day was quiet. Mark texted me throughout, keeping up the act like everything was normal. "Miss you," he wrote. "Hope work's not too stressful." I almost laughed. He was good. I'll give him that. But I've learned over the years that the people who lie the best always trip themselves up eventually. By the second day, my instincts were rewarded. Around noon, I got an alert from the tracking app I'd quietly installed on his phone. Yeah. I know how it sounds, but trust me. When the stakes are this high, you don't leave things to chance. He wasn't at home. He wasn't at the grocery store or anywhere he'd usually be. He was at Jane's apartment. I don't remember feeling anger in that moment. What I felt was colder. Like, everything in me sharpened into focus. I gripped the steering wheel, waiting for them to emerge. Not because I needed more proof, but because I needed to see how far this would go. If Mark and Jane were crossing a line, I wasn't going to let them pretend otherwise. An hour later, they left her place together. His laugh echoed down the street as they walked to her car, like he didn't have a care in the world. Jane was grinning like she was on top of it all. My sister, my husband, they thought they'd gotten away with it. I followed them to a coffee shop, parked across the street, and watched. The way they sat there, leaning in close, talking like no one else existed, it wasn't innocent. His hand brushed her arm at one point, and my chest tightened, not from hurt, from the sheer burning realization that these two had the audacity to disrespect me like this. My camera app clicked as I took photos. Each one a nail in the coffin of whatever they thought they could get away with. But something didn't add up. It wasn't just the sneaking around. It was the way Mark had been withdrawing small amounts of cash from our accounts over the past few months. At first, I thought it was just his usual spending, but the pattern felt deliberate. Eric confirmed my suspicions 2 days later. "The money's been funneled into an account that doesn't belong to either of them," he said during one of our calls. "It's under the name Victoria Kane." "Who the hell is Victoria Kane?" I asked. "She's trouble," Eric said bluntly. "Scam people out of thousands through fake investment deals. She's been flagged for fraud multiple times, but she's slippery. No convictions yet. It looks like she's roped Jane into one of her schemes. And your husband, he's been funding it, whether he knows it or not." My stomach turned. This wasn't just an affair anymore. Jane and Mark weren't just betraying me. They were being played. And now my money was tangled up in whatever game that Victoria Kane was running. That was a lot to handle. Everything swirled like a storm in my mind, but I had to face things step by step to understand the shit that was happening in my life. The next day, I walked into my house earlier than expected. Mark was at the kitchen counter, sipping his coffee, his phone in hand. He looked up and froze for half a second before forcing a smile. "You were back early. How was the trip?" I dropped my bag by the door and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Cut short. Figured I'd surprise you." He laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Well, that's great." I nodded, not saying much. I wanted him to feel the silence. Let him stew in it. Mark doesn't handle silence well. It makes him nervous. Sure enough, he started babbling about his day, trying to fill the void. I just watched him, calm and steady. Then I made my first move. "So, how's Jane been lately?" I asked, my tone casual, like I was asking about the weather. His spoon froze midair. "Fine, I guess." "Why?" "No reason. Just seems like you two have been spending a lot of time together." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you really doing this again?" "She's your sister." "Yeah," I said, leaning back in my chair. "My sister. Funny how that works." His jaw tightened. "You are being paranoid. You've been working too much. Maybe you should take a break." I smiled, but it wasn't a kind one. "Maybe I should." He didn't see it coming when I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. The photos were right there, plain as day. Her and Jane at the coffee shop, laughing, leaning in too close. The blood drained from his face as he stared at the screen. "It's not what it looks like," he stammered. Classic line. Predictable. I tilted my head. "So what is it, then?" "Because it looks like my husband and my sister are sneaking around behind my back." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Just tears. Big dramatic ones. The kind meant to manipulate, but I wasn't moved. "Not anymore." "Save it," I said, my voice low and steady. "I gave you the benefit of the doubt for weeks. I trusted you. And this is how you repay me?" "Nothing happened," he cried. "We were just talking." "Talking," I repeated, leaning forward. "At her apartment, at a coffee shop, when you thought I wasn't around. That's some interesting talking." He tried to deny it again, but the words rang hollow. He knew he was caught. That night, I packed a bag. Mark begged me to stay, saying we could work it out. But there's no working things out with someone who's willing to betray you like that. Trust doesn't grow back once it's broken. As I drove away, something shifted in me. The old version of myself, the one who trusted too easily, who believed in loyalty without question, was gone. What replaced her was sharper, harder, the kind of woman who doesn't let things slide. If Mark and Jane thought this was over, they were dead wrong. I saw a T. I didn't pack my bag and walk out of that house to sulk. I left because I needed distance to plan my next move. I'm not the woman who lets emotions take the wheel. Every step I took after that was calculated, deliberate. They thought they'd gotten away with it, that I'd back down. But I've never backed down from a fight in my life, and I wasn't about to start now. The day after I left, I laid everything out to Mary, the photos, the tracking app logs, and the way Mark couldn't even look me in the eye after I confronted him. Mary's the kind of woman who loves tearing people apart in court. And when I handed her that evidence, her grin told me I was in good hands. "This isn't just an affair," Mary said, flipping through the photos I'd taken. "It's calculated, premeditated." She was right. The way they moved, the secrecy, the lies, it wasn't just a betrayal. It was a scheme. And when Mary suggested digging deeper, I didn't hesitate. If there was more to uncover, I wanted it all laid bare. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about an affair. Jane had always been jealous of my career, my house, my life. She used to joke about it, but now I wondered if it was more than a joke. And Mark? He'd mentioned feeling stuck once or twice, but I let it slide. Maybe I should have paid more attention. Maybe he wanted something more than I could give him, or maybe this was just who they were, two people willing to destroy someone else to get what they wanted. While Mary got to work, I focused on Jane. She was the key to this whole thing. Mark's betrayal stung, but Jane, my sister, that cut deeper. It wasn't just about the affair. It was the sheer audacity of her thinking she could steal from me because that's what this was about. I wasn't just dealing with infidelity. They were planning to take what I'd built, piece by piece. The breakthrough came 2 days later. Mary called me with a new piece of the puzzle: financial irregularities in our joint accounts. Mark had been quietly withdrawing money, small amounts at first, then larger sums. Mary had tracked the transfers to a hidden account, one with Jane's name on it. "That's not the worst of it," Mary said. "There's a trail of messages between him and Jane. They're talking about cleaning you out completely. It hit me like a freight train, but not in the way you'd think. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't hurt. I was furious. They weren't just sneaking around. They were plotting to rob me blind, to leave me with nothing. And for what? So they could play house together while I picked up the pieces? I was tripping, and my lack of sleep was starting to show. At work, my boss pulled me aside after a meeting. "You've been distracted lately," she said. "What's going on?" I wanted to tell her everything. That my husband and sister were tearing my life apart, that my finances were a mess. But instead, I just nodded and promised to get back on track. Work was the only thing I had left, and even that felt like it was slipping through my fingers. My friends were noticing too. "You've been quiet lately," one of them texted. "Everything okay?" I didn't reply. I wasn't going to confront Mark again. He'd made his choice, and there was no saving him. But Jane, she hadn't seen me yet, hadn't faced what was coming. She'd been hiding like the coward she is, but that wouldn't last. Before I confronted Jane, I did more digging. Eric sent me a summary of Victoria Kane's operations. She preyed on people like Jane, desperate for easy money and too arrogant to see the red flags. According to Eric, Victoria had promised Jane a risk-free deal, gain access to a significant amount of cash, invested in one of Victoria's ventures, and double the money within months. All Jane had to do was convince someone to bankroll her, and that's where Mark came in. Whether Jane manipulated him or he went along willingly, I didn't care. They'd both betrayed me, and now they were neck-deep in a scam that could ruin everything I'd built. I had to confront Jane. But before heading to her apartment, I stopped by Erica's place. "You're really going to confront her?" she asked. "I have to," I said. My jaw tightening. "Just don't lose your cool," she warned. "You're better than this. Don't let their betrayal define you." The next evening, I drove to her apartment. I didn't call ahead, didn't knock softly. I pounded on her door until she opened it. Her face pale when she saw me standing there. "Can we talk?" she stammered, already trying to backpedal. I slammed the door behind me. "You've got one chance," I said, stepping closer. "Tell me the truth. Now." Jane's face drained of color. "Look. It's not what you think. Don't lie to me." I leaned in, my voice sharp. "I've got photos, tracking logs, bank transfers. You think I don't know about the hidden account?" Jane froze, her hands trembling. I took a step closer, towering over her. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You didn't just sleep with my husband. You tried to take everything I've worked for. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I'd just roll over and take it?" Jane's hands shook as she held them up defensively. "It wasn't my idea, Mark." "He don't," I growled. "Don't you dare try to pin this on him like you're some innocent bystander. You were in on it every damn step of the way." She opened her mouth to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a copy of the bank statements Eric had uncovered. I tossed them onto Hoy's coffee table. "See that? That's your name on the account. That's you stealing from me, planning to leave me with nothing. You're not just a liar, Jane. You're a thief, you're a gold digger." She tried to sputter some excuse, but I wasn't listening anymore. I leaned in, my voice low and steady. "You've got one chance. Tell me about Victoria Kane." And for the first time, she didn't try to smirk or deny anything. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. I stepped closer, my tone dropping to a growl. "Don't lie to me, Jane. I know about the account. I know about the money. Victoria's not your business partner. She's a con artist. And you? You're too stupid to see you're just another pawn in her game." Jane's hands shook as she held them up defensively. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she said. "Victoria said it was just an investment, something to get ahead. Mark wanted in. He thought it was a good idea too." I snapped. "You brought her into our lives. You dragged him into this mess. And now you're going to tell me everything, or I'll make sure Victoria knows you've turned on her." Jane's eyes widened. And for a moment, I saw genuine fear. "You don't know what she's capable of," she whispered. "If she finds out I screwed up, that's not my problem," I said sharply. "You made this mess. You clean it up, and I left her in chaos." 2 days later, my mom called me. "I heard what happened," she said. Her voice was calm, too calm, like she was trying to smooth things over. "Jane is your sister. Families fight, but we forgive each other." I couldn't believe it. "Forgive her?" I asked. "She slept with my husband. She tried to steal from me. She's going through a rough time, She continued as if I hadn't spoken. She didn't mean for things to get so bad. Don't call me again about this, I said, hanging up before she could reply. For once in my life, I wasn't playing the peacemaker. Walking out of Jane's apartment wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of the fallout. Betrayal like this doesn't just disappear. It leaves scars, deep ones. The first thing I did was lock down every financial loose end. If they thought they were clever, they had no idea who they were dealing with. I wasn't about to let Mark or Jane walk away with a dime of what I'd earned. With Eric, my lawyer and the best weapon in my arsenal, I froze our joint accounts. Mark had been sneaking money out for months, and Eric tracked it all. The withdrawals, the hidden account, every shady transfer. Good news, Eric told me, his voice smug over the phone. That account is frozen too. They can't touch it. I grinned. Step 1, complete. But just when I thought I had everything under control, I got hit with another curveball. My boss called me to her office. Your numbers are slipping, she said. What's going on? I opened my mouth to explain. But what was I supposed to say? That my husband and sister were conspiring against me? That my personal life was a mess? Instead, I nodded and promised to refocus. The last thing I needed was for their betrayal to cost me my career too. So I decided to move everything into secure accounts under my name only. No ties to Claire, no way for him to siphon anything else. By the time they figured out what had happened, they were completely locked out. No money, no way to access anything I owned, and no idea how to fix it. That's when I hit him with the divorce papers. Eric didn't just draft a standard set of documents. He built a case so airtight, Mark would have no choice but to sign. Thanks to the evidence of his affair and his attempts to steal from me, he had no leverage. No chance of getting a single penny more than he was entitled to, which, as far as I was concerned, was nothing. When the papers landed on his doorstep, he called me immediately. His voice was shaking, part anger, part desperation. You're divorcing me? He hissed like it was some shocking betrayal. You can't just throw everything away like this. I almost laughed at his audacity. Throw everything away? I said. Mark, you did that. The second you started sneaking around with Jane. The second you decided to take what wasn't yours. I'm just cleaning up the mess you made. He tried to guilt-trip me. That's what Mark does best. He brought up the years we'd spent together, the good times, as if that erased everything else. We can fix this, he said, his voice cracking. We can work through it. I cut him off. No. We can't. You don't come back from this. Sign the papers, Mark, or don't. Either way, we're done. I hung up before he could respond. There was nothing left to say. Next, it was Jane's turn. Getting her fired from her cushy job was a good start, but it wasn't enough. She thought she could coast on her charm forever, but I was about to make sure no one in her professional circle trusted her again. I reached out to a few contacts, people who knew Jane but didn't know her anything, and laid out the truth. I didn't exaggerate or embellish. I just told them exactly what she'd done. The affair, the stolen money, the betrayal. I even sent them some of the evidence Eric had collected. Now Jane tried to interview for other jobs, but word spread quickly. No one wanted to hire a woman who would betray her own sister. A week later, Jane called me. It was the first time I'd heard from her since our confrontation at her apartment. Her voice was frantic, a mix of anger and desperation. I can't get a job, she said. Her voice rising. You've ruined my reputation. I leaned back in my chair, letting her words hang in the air. You ruined your reputation, Jane. I just made sure people knew the truth. Come on, she pleaded. We're family. That word, family, set something off in me. You don't get to use that word. You stopped being family the second you decided to stab me in the back. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, her tone shifting to pathetic. I was stupid. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to lock your car, I shouted. What you did was calculated. You knew exactly what you were doing, and now you're paying for it. Don't call me again, Jane. We're done. I hung up and blocked her number. Whatever came next for her wasn't my problem, but dealing with them wasn't enough. I needed to rebuild. For too long, I'd let Mark's lies and Jane's betrayal consume me. Now I was done with that. I started hitting the gym harder than ever. Started going out. I focused on work, diving into projects I'd put off for months. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. People I'd let drift away because I'd been too wrapped up in Eric's bullshit. It wasn't just about keeping busy. It was about proving to myself that I could move forward, that I could be better, sharper, stronger. Every step I took away from them was a step toward a better version of me. I also reconnected with old friends. People I'd drifted away from while trying to make my marriage work. Erica said something that stuck with me. "You're not the girl I used to know, but in a good way. You're sharper, smarter." It felt good to hear that. Like, I was finally becoming the person I was meant to be. By the time the divorce was finalized, Mark had gone radio silent. He signed the papers without a fight, probably realizing he had no other choice, and disappeared. No more texts, no more calls. He knew he'd lost. Jane, she slunk off into the shadows too. Last I heard, she'd moved out of town, probably hoping to escape the mess she'd made. Good. Let her run. Let her try to start over somewhere else. I didn't care anymore. They were ghosts to me now. Victoria Kane wasn't finished with them, though. Eric found out that Victoria had been pressuring Jane and Mark for more money after the account was frozen. Victoria doesn't just let people walk away, Eric told me. She'll squeeze them dry before cutting them loose. Part of me wanted to warn them, but I stopped myself. They'd chosen to work with her. They'd chosen to betray me. If Victoria turned on them, that was their problem, not mine. Still, it was satisfying to imagine Jane and Mark scrambling to clean up the mess they'd created. Looking back, it's hard to describe how all of this changed me. I don't trust as easily anymore, but I don't see that as a bad thing. Trust is earned, not given. And loyalty? That's not just expected. It's required. Mark and Jane thought they could tear me down, but all they did was remind me who I really am. So here I am now, sharper, stronger, smarter. They tried to burn me, but all they did was light a fire under me. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You can lose everything. But as long as you don't lose yourself, you can rebuild. And I'll be damned if I let anyone try to take me down again. But I'm actually curious about how their lives will turn out after the mess they left behind. If I figure anything new, I'll spill the tea here. Stay tuned. Alright, everyone. Now, let's move to the last update. Final update. Hey, everyone. It's been a while. A lot has happened since my last post, and I figured it was time for an update. The financial fallout for my sister, Jane, didn't stop with a frozen account. Remember how Mark and Jane tried to set up that secret stash of stolen money? Well, the bank flagged the transfers. And since they were tied to fraudulent activity, both of them got hit with hefty fines. Mark managed to scrape together enough to pay his share, probably sold everything he could. But Jane? She didn't have the funds. From what I've heard, she's been struggling to make the payments and is now dealing with debt collectors. The irony is almost poetic. She tried to take what wasn't hers, and now she's drowning in bills she can't pay. Oh, and I recently found out through mutual contacts that Jane has officially left town. Apparently, she couldn't handle the shame of what she'd done and decided to start fresh somewhere else. Honestly, I think it's for the best. She burned every bridge here, professionally, personally, and within our family. The funny thing? Even though she's gone, her reputation is still following her. People talk, and her actions have become the kind of story that spreads fast. Wherever she goes, she's going to have to carry the weight of what she did. If you'd asked me a few months ago how I felt about Jane, I would have said I hated her. But now, I don't feel anything. She's just irrelevant. I don't need revenge or closure or any of that. I've moved on, and I've built a life where her existence doesn't matter anymore. That's the best part about karma. It doesn't need help. It takes care of things on its own. All I had to do was step back and let it do its work.